Your experiences with vouchers this afternoon will be part of our conversation when we chat to Wendy Knowler. Welcome to Consumer Talk, and consumer journalist Wendy Knowler is in studio with us this afternoon. We're going to be discussing vouchers, and a listener spent almost 9,000 Rand on a birthday adventure voucher, and after several weather-related cancellations, she was getting no response to her refunds or requests. And we're also going to be giving you an update on the issue that people raised with us who had bought vouchers for an independent spa at Zevenwacht Wine Estate, only to be told soon afterwards that the business had closed it down. Wendy, a very good afternoon to you, and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Zain. Good to be here.
It must be a very nice market selling vouchers, because it's one way of expanding your business.
It is. It works for the businesses for sure. I mean, it's lucrative because the retailers get their money up front, knowing that a sizable percentage of people, for a variety of reasons, will not present them in exchange for goods or services within the validity period, which by law, Consumer Protection Act, has to be at least 3 years, which is quite a long time. But there are still, and I put my hand up for this, still people who, for whatever reason, just don't get round to redeeming the voucher in that time. So the money is kept and no service provided. But yeah, even 11 years since the 3-year validity period became a law, that's when the CPA came into effect, there are still a number of service providers who will issue a 6-month or a 12-month voucher. But that's quite rare these days. But there's still other dodgy practices going on with the issuing of vouchers which aren't legal. They insert it into the terms and conditions and say, but these are our terms and conditions. Well, they're not valid if they're not compliant with the law of the land. So we just thought the various issues around vouchers, let's mush them all together and chat about them today.
So when I walk up to an organization or a business that's providing, let's say a spa, and I want to buy somebody a back massage voucher or something, they're not allowed to put a 6 months, 12 months, or 36 months.
Definitely not.
It's
3 years.
It is 3 years, and that is it.
So if you're buying a voucher for somebody, that's the first thing to check, the validity date. If there isn't one, insist on one being put 3 years from the date that you stand there handing over your money.
Let's start with the story we picked up on last week. Oriel contacted us near to the end of last week's show to say that in June she bought 2 hot air balloon ride vouchers at 4,100 Rand each as a birthday treat for herself and a good friend. Tell us what happened then.
Okay, so Oriel's birthday was in early July. She made a booking for around that date, and it had to be cancelled. She made another. There were quite a few cancellations, and yes, bearing in mind that this is winter in Cape Town, we have rain, we have wind, and that's not ideal ballooning conditions. So obviously there are a lot of cancellations, but they have, after she just lost the appetite for this adventure. The birthday was long gone, and then she asked for a refund. She was directed to the company, and the company in question is Ballooning Cape Town, which is based in Stellenbosch. She was directed to fill in a refund form, which mentions that an admin fee will apply, but doesn't specify how much, interestingly. But the form did disclose how long she could expect to wait for a refund of her 8,200 Rand, which was up to 21 working days, so essentially a month. Oriel submitted that form on the 29th of July, so that month is long gone now. It was past when she contacted us last week. And we have her on the line, I hope, to tell us a little bit more.
Oriel, a very, very good afternoon to you, and welcome to Cape Talk. Oriel on the line this afternoon to tell us exactly what happened with the refund of the gift voucher. Oriel, very good afternoon to you, and welcome to Cape Talk.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
Hi, Oriel.
Tell us, Wendy.
Did you get an acknowledgement from the company at all to your, I think it was several emails you sent after that form to say what's happening?
No. Once I requested the refund, there was absolutely no response. No matter how I tried, I must have sent 10 emails, and they just never got back to me. Their telephone numbers just rings. They never ever answer the phone since I inquired in June of this year.
Okay, so there's a phone number on the company's website, which I've also experienced is not functioning. There's the sales email address, which appears to be the only way to get a hold of the company. And then there's the name of a restaurant in Stellenbosch. We're not going to name them, where I believe they hold breakfast after the successful flights, if that's the word. Did you tried that route, and where did that lead you?
Yeah, I contacted the restaurant and they gave me a gentleman's phone number, and he never ever answered his phone either.
Okay, I also tried that and it just went straight to voicemail. One of those annoying messages that say you may not leave a message. So there's no record that you ever phoned. Okay, so I sent a media query via that sales email asking essentially, does the company have any intention of refunding you minus that mystery admin fee? And the answer was, kindly note that we can unfortunately not disclose any information about any of our clients. Okay, the client is you and you came to me asking me to take up your case, but be that as it may, Ballooning Cape Town said they are, however, free to share with anyone they wish. The refund for the client you mentioned was successfully processed, and she received an email from the payment gateway we use with that confirmation. Kind regards, Ballooning Cape Town team. So still no names ever mentioned there. So when we last spoke, Oriel, that was yesterday, I think it was, and you said you'd received the payment notification, and that's
correct.
After I sent my media query. Do you have that money in your account now?
No.
Okay.
I just checked the bank account at 5 minutes to 2, and there's no payment.
Okay. Well, hopefully it's just a delay between the banks, and that's all it is. So we'll have to keep tabs on that one, but I'm hoping that's a successful refund. What is your learning out of this, Oriel?
Never ever again.
No,
as I told you, I'm an adrenaline junkie, and I was so excited to be able to do this for my birthday. And, I felt comfortable in the beginning because they were sending, good emails. But every time I inquired about the telephone number, I mean, you'll notice on the emails that I sent you, numerous times I asked, why don't you answer your telephone? And they never, ever responded. One day I even sent an email saying, why don't you respond to my question about your telephone number? And I didn't get a response.
Okay. Well, holding thumbs that what you do get is your money back, and this will have to be continued for next week. But there is, just to say that there is often a day or two delay between.
Yes. No, I understand that.
Yeah. So hoping that's all it is. Thank you so much for joining us.
I appreciate your help, Wendy. I really do.
You're most welcome.
Thank you.
What are then the lookouts for anybody buying a voucher, whether it is just a spa voucher or a gift voucher or something? Because I've got a WhatsApp message here, Wendy. It says, hi, Zain. On the gift voucher thing, I actually think experience vouchers are a great option, which is what we were talking about now, a ballooning experience. A lot of people have too much stuff, but an experience is something you will always remember. I didn't know what to buy my husband for his 49th birthday a few years ago and decided to buy him an experience flight in a gyrocopter. The person says, little did I know it would change his life forever. He literally got out of the gyrocopter and said, I want to become a helicopter pilot.
Oh, wow.
So that's a wonderful
experience. I was hoping it wasn't going to be an accident story. I was holding my breath there. That is a wonderful experience. So, yes, things to look for would be, and I've had cases like this where people have bought these experience vouchers. So there are two ways to do a voucher. You can make it, the supplier can make it out to a monetary amount, or to list the goods or service listed as a helicopter ride, a full body massage, whatever the case may be. What you must always check if you're buying vouchers is check their T's and C's that they are compliant with the law. So what they can't do is, if the person, particularly if they redeem towards the end of that 3-year validity period, they arrive and say, right, I'll have that helicopter flip or I'll have that massage, and then the spa says, well, actually the price has gone up since this voucher was bought, so you're going to have to pay extra. Absolutely not. They have to hold it, provided for that service that's listed on the voucher. They have to provide it in full for 3 years. It's the reason why a lot of these places have started, especially spas. They'll make out, which is not everybody wants to know, like put a crude, monetary amount. You'd rather say facial, whatever. But the spas are protecting themselves from losing out. Although I think all the vouchers that don't get redeemed more than makes up for this, but they put their full body massage 1,500 Rand or whatever the case may be. They'll put the amount rather than the service. So whatever your 1,500 Rand will buy the person you've gifted it to 3 years down the line, well, that's what they can buy. So that's one way that the industry got round having to take a knock when the voucher was held on to, for 2.5, right up to the 3 year cutoff. So just check that. And if there was one case we spoke of somebody who bought her husband an experience on a racetrack, and the voucher said vouchers are valid for the experience purchase for 12 months from the date of purchase, but in the cases of vouchers not redeemed within 12 months, the voucher will revert to the original paid value. Therefore, to book the original experience after the first 12 months, a price increase may need to be paid. I mean, I challenged them on that, and they backed down because that's illegal. If you're providing a experience on a racetrack, it's been paid for, it's valid for 3 years. If the person comes after year 1 or year 2, they can't then be made to pay in. So this is something that I'm starting to see creep in a lot, and it's really not acceptable. And the other thing to look out for is, the vouchers, you cannot redeem the voucher for any promotional deal. So if they're advertising a special, there's nothing in the act that precludes that. You have the right to present it when you choose to present it, and if there's a booking, there's a booking. If there isn't, there isn't. But this cannot be sitting in the terms and conditions. So look out for that as well.
So there are, my eyes are opening now to quite a number of things which people out there are doing, which is actually an illegal thing. For instance, if you buy something on a promo deal, there are a number of websites and a number of sites that offer you 1 day only on this particular thing and stuff like that. And those vouchers should then stay valid for 3 years.
That's a tricky case, which I remember Groupon when that came.
Yes,
that sort of
yes.
blazed the trail, and now we have many, many forms of it. So there's a bit of a compromise deal. Those are specifically promotional deals, by their nature, valid for a short period of time. So what should work then, and most of them do comply with this, that if you don't book that experience within 3 months, say, you don't lose your spend. You lose your right to claim that particular special deal, but the company that issued the voucher to you must give you credit for that voucher and enable you to redeem it on something else for 3 years from the date that you purchased the voucher. And I think that's pretty fair.
I think that's a fair deal. Chatting this afternoon to Wendy Knowler. We're chatting about vouchers. If you had any good experience or bad experiences with vouchers, we'd love to hear from you on 021-446-0567 on 072 567-1567. We'll also a little later give you an update on the issue of people who bought vouchers for that independent spa. And I remember listening to this conversation which you had with Pippa Hudson at Zevenbach Wine Estate, only to be told soon afterwards that the business had closed. We got a WhatsApp message here saying, my experience paragliding voucher was cancelled 13 hours after purchase and still no response from my email. And no phone number available, and that comes from Monique. Wendy, these are the sort of key signs to look for.
Okay, so first of all, before you give your money, you're giving your money to someone in advance of, you've technically got 3 years in which to redeem it. So you need to do a bit of history on the company, I believe, so that you don't waste your money. Look at recent reviews, for example, especially these adventure ones. And if there's no phone number, well, that's a big problem, because I always say, hope for the best, plan for the worst. If something goes wrong, how am I going to get hold of this company? Is there an address? Is there a contact phone number? Is there an email address? And so this is very unusual if you pay your money over and you've got no means of contacting the company. But please, I mean, I'm very happy to do a little bit of sleuthing as far as possible to try and find out. So send me an email, give me what you know with the dates of when you paid and how you were notified that I'm gathering they're not saying the company is closed down, as in the case we're going to be talking about after the break, but that just that that's extraordinary. Were there any excuses? What was the thing? Just cancelled, sorry for you, have a nice day. I mean, there had to be more than that. So let me see what I can do. Just if you could email me.
Another WhatsApp message that has just come in. I regularly buy vouchers as a gift. At this spa voucher is only valid for 3 months from the date. Question is it legal? Well,
no,
obviously,
it's not legal.
Is not legal.
Wow, definitely not. I mean, that's what I was alluding to earlier, and I said I don't get many of these now. It's more the more subtle things of them introducing terms and conditions that aren't strictly legal. But this very unusual for spas to be, and we're talking about spas without an R, to be clear, these beauty spas. It's very unusual for them, 14 years on since the CPA came into effect, to be still sticking with the 3 months. Absolutely not legal. Please do email me with the details there so that I can send them a nice email.
And go back to them and say, Wendy says that it's valid for 3 years and not 3 months, because, people need to know their rights. They need to be educated about, certain things, and they need to know their rights. And only when you purchase something, you need to make sure that there are none of those loopholes or potholes that and you're giving your money. You're paying up front for a voucher, so you need to make sure.
Yeah. So I would urge people who are doing the buying of the vouchers for their sakes, that they don't want to waste their money, and for the person that they're gifting it to look very carefully at the validity date and also at the terms and conditions. If there's anything about promos don't qualify, or you'll pay more after year one, or whatever the case may be, rather skip that service provider and move on to another who is going to comply. So the first rule of what's the word? I was going to say, for us to benefit from these wonderful consumer protection laws that we have to know about them, right? And then knowing about them, we can ask the right questions and then avoid those service providers who have chosen to be in business but not to honor the Consumer Protection Act.
Wendy, you have a follow-up on a story that we had earlier this year about a spa voucher which couldn't be redeemed because the spa had actually gone out of business. Give us the background to that.
Sure. It was the show we did on Wednesday, the 23rd of July, and we reported that several people had paid the spa at Zevenwacht Estate considerable sums of money, 3,900 Rand in one case for a full day's spoils for this chap's wife, treatment gift vouchers and the rest. And within days or weeks, they were told that the services had been suspended. That was the wording they got in a letter. So Zevenwacht director Zain Johnson told us that the Bequena Spa, which was rebranded more recently as Infinity, had leased the premises on the estate since 2016. And while the estate was aware that they were experiencing difficulties because they were behind in their rental payments, they had undertaken to pay back their arrears, and business was expected to pick up after the rebranding. Then came the surprise closure. Denise told us that the estate only became aware of this on the last day of that spa's trading. About the next chapter, what now for the people that were holding these vouchers, Denise told us in that show, 23rd of July, I've had a very positive meeting with a potential new spa operator. If they enter into an agreement with us between the two companies, we will attempt to honor all bookings that have not been refunded. As I have no access to the database or list of guests, we are keeping a record of all inquiries we receive. So there was a glimmer of hope, and we handed over the details of the people who'd contacted us. But having got word back, it was last week, from one voucher holder that there had been no further developments, he'd had no contact, I went back to Denise to ask for a progress report. She said, I'm still in negotiation with the potential spa operator. They need to source funding and investors and be sure that the business model will work well. So there's nothing that we can do to expedite the process. She said, while they have agreed in principle to rent the premises with the purposes of running a spa, I hope to have a final confirmation by next week. So that should be by the end of this week. She says, we've discussed the process of assisting guests who booked and paid on the basis that the new operator will offer either a reduced package, half or full day spa, depending on the booking, and we will subsidize 50% of the costs. This is entirely a gesture of goodwill. I do not want to make promises to any guests, Denise said, until we are sure that we can carry the financial costs of this offer. So that's fair enough. She added that the estate, that's Zevenwacht, had been the subject of some distressing social media posts and emails insinuating that we have stolen their money. There is no legal or financial obligation on Zevenwacht or the new spa operator to offer any services to these guests. Their recourse is 100% against Infinity Day Spa and Wellness, and they are welcome to institute any form of legal proceedings against them at their discretion. Denise has shared with me a contact name and email address, which I will share with anyone who asks me for it off air.
So there is no obligation on Zevenwacht itself, because this practically was a tenant of theirs and wasn't
pretty much yes
contracted into any part of their business.
Yeah, and I think it's fairly common with
spas and hotels to do this.
Exactly, it's an outside operator and they have an agreement between them, but what happened there and them continuing to sell vouchers up until the last week of before they said sorry, we've stopped operating, is no reflection on or the responsibility of the estate in this case. But you can understand from a consumer's point of view, they're driving into the estate, they're associating the experience with the estate, although the spa itself has got different branding and it's a completely independent company. Some people, they can't get hold of the spa, but so they will target, in this case, the estate, Zevenwacht, and say, you stole our money. So just to make it clear, that wasn't the case, and all is not lost completely at this stage. It's just the feedback, the update rather, that we promised, and it's to be continued. We'll keep on monitoring this.
There's a nice gesture to say, listen, we'll cover 50% of the cost, and because obviously you need to backtrack now again from reputational damage to the estate, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's what they're obviously seeking to do, but while making it very clear that it wasn't their wrongdoing and they have no obligation to do it, but they obviously feel bad that people had that experience and are invested in trying to do what they can to make it, to make it right with the people that were harmed.
A few WhatsApp messages that have come in. One says that the longer it takes for the consumer to redeem the voucher, the company gains interest from the money paid, and it works for them. So they can't say the cost of the service has increased, or they'll lose out if you come over a longer period.
Yeah, but what kind of interest? It's not going to. There's going to be a big shortfall there. But essentially, it is within their power then to say, well, we'll issue the voucher and the value of 3,900 or whatever the case may be. And if you don't redeem it in the first 6 months, well, then when you come with your voucher to the value of 3,900 rand, it's going to get you less, and that's why a lot of them have opted for that. But the point is, if they're still just going with the practice of listing the experience as what the voucher exchange will be, and you arrive for it in year 2 times 9 months, they can't then say, oh no, that facial's now has gone up by 50% in the last 3 years, so we need a pay-in from you. That is what a really strong message I want to get across, is they are not at liberty, legally entitled to do that.
Another WhatsApp message, and this is a lovely one. Hi, Wendy. What are the rules around this? The listener wants to know. And your WhatsApp's on 0725671567. I bought my husband a voucher for cooking lessons with a chef. 4,000 Rand for 8 lessons, where the chef would come to our house and cook with us. It's one way of getting your husband to cook, isn't it?
Yes, if they're willing.
A few weeks later, when I gave my husband his gift, he was unimpressed with my gift, and I tried to get a refund. The chef refused, and there were no terms and conditions on this particular gift. And is it legal? So,
yeah, absolutely. The Consumer Protection Act does entitle the supplier to refuse to give a cash refund. It's got to be redeemed for services because that was the purpose for which it was bought. So, unfortunately, she should just have the. If I were, I'd have to say thank you. I'll take those lessons.
And this brings me to the question whether vouchers are transferable, because I think a number of vouchers will indicate and stipulate quite categorically this voucher is not transferable.
I need to call up the Act, but I think they might be within their rights to do that. If we're reading out other WhatsApps, I'll have a quick look. I did look in the break, but I didn't quite get there.
Another WhatsApp message saying, "Hi Wendy, do vouchers you get from, say, Cape Union, Mart or Woolies, do they actually expire?" From Gareth. And obviously, Gareth, within 3 years, if you haven't used it, it does expire.
I think he's referring to loyalty vouchers, though.
Okay.
And those are exempt because the Act refers to prepaid vouchers, cards, or whatever other mechanism. The key word is prepaid. So if you're being awarded vouchers, and thank you so much for this question, for prompting me to give this information, if it's you haven't paid for them, it's just a thank you and nice to have a loyalty present, then they can make it valid for whatever period they feel is appropriate. So this section doesn't apply because it's not prepaid.
It's not prepaid.
Thank you again for that question.
Gareth, there's your answer. Your voucher from Cape Union, Mart or Woolies, for instance, is not prepaid.
He didn't say it was a loyalty thing, so I'm assuming that's what he meant. If it was paid for voucher, I can't imagine Woolies not complying, or Cape Union, Mart for that matter. If it was paid for as a gift, then absolutely it must be valid for 3 years. Incidentally, not everybody buys vouchers for as gifts. I've had feedback from people who say that they buy vouchers as a way of saving. Like, I don't know, so like instead of just putting it into a savings account, it might go to something else. They'll buy themselves a voucher from a particular retailer, and then when they need it, when they need to buy whatever, school clothes or whatever, then they will pull out the voucher and go and do it. But I would say lay-by is a good way to do that. You can buy something, put something on lay-by that you don't need now. For example, for summer, you could lay-by it now. You're not going to certainly look how we dress now, say, and you could buy some clothing for summer. By the time you've paid it off with no interest over 3 months, and not needing to wear, you don't need the instant gratification, and then it's paid off and you.
But it was summer yesterday.
I know this is Cape Town in September.
It got me diving for my long johns and everything this morning. Another question that's coming, Wendy, and we're talking to Wendy Knowler. If you have any experiences in terms of vouchers, we'd love to hear from you on 0725671567 or on 0214460567. This one says, "I had a very bad experience with a high-end hotel regarding a high tea voucher bought during COVID. The time period here obviously is very important. So post-COVID, when trying to redeem the voucher, they stopped the high tea. And I struggled to get them to honor that particular voucher. I personally went through because no one answered the emails and no one returned the phone calls as promised. And finally, they consented, but I said I would have to pay. They said I would have to pay extra as the price had gone up since issuing that voucher."
Well, she's left out the timing there. So
yeah,
bearing in mind that there was only a 3-year validity. So say she bought the voucher, and many of us were encouraged to do this to keep restaurants and the like afloat, because obviously no guests, etc. So the validity period would have been 3 years. So say it was issued when were things really bad? Say June of 2020.
Yeah,
it would have expired in June of 2023. So yeah, I would imagine, she doesn't say, but if the voucher was still within that 3-year validity period and she'd paid for a high tea, then they couldn't ask her to pay in. If it's now past that 3 year and she wasn't able because they didn't have the high tea within the 3-year period, then I would say, to be fair, and given that it was COVID and everything else, it might be applicable to pay us to have a small pay in.
yeah.
to negotiate around that.
sometimes
But I don't have the timing.
Yeah.
So
Sometimes I don't think that one can expect an organization to honor a voucher ad infinitum. You know what I'm saying?
no, legally you don't have to.
Yeah, legally it's 3 years,
3
and that
years
is
done.
it. So make absolutely sure when you buy that voucher that the expiry date is 3 years from the time that you've actually bought it.
This is what the Act said. It's Section 63 of the Consumer Protection Act, available online for those who want to check it out for themselves. So it starts off by saying what we said earlier. It only applies to transactions in which a supplier accepts consideration from a person in exchange. So it's only paid for, not a loyalty voucher. And the supplier expressly or implicitly agrees to provide goods or services to any person who subsequently presents that certificate. So it's definitely transferable, and that shouldn't be used as a means of keeping your money and not supplying anything. So, for example, the woman who bought the chef lessons for her husband, she's definitely at liberty to say, okay, well, I will. Here's the voucher I presented, and I will take the lessons from you. Thank you very much, or give it to her sister, whoever's interested. The person who has possession of the voucher, and obviously they can do the checks to see that it wasn't, presented before, is then entitled, because I'm talking about digital ones, you can just, forward them. They would obviously check that it hadn't been redeemed before, and so they are transferable.
There we go. Vouchers are transferable, so those cooking lessons can go to somebody who
appreciates,
will appreciate it.
it.
And your husband is definitely not going to be cooking. That's a no-no. Got a voice note in from Trish this afternoon on 0725671567.
My husband was given a book voucher to the value of 400 Rand for his birthday, and when he went to redeem it, there was no use it by date on it or anything like that. Exclusive Books said that it had expired like maybe 2 or 3 weeks beforehand, and they refused to acknowledge it. And he tried to challenge them and said, but don't these vouchers not have a use by date? And the lady said no. I'm just wondering, if it doesn't state on the actual voucher, got to be used by a certain date, have we got anything to go back to them for and say, you've got to honor this? I'm just curious to know this. Thanks, Trish.
Wendy?
Trish, that's a very interesting one, because, they should all have expiry dates on them. The only way they obviously were able to ascertain when the voucher was purchased, right? And that's why they're saying, well, it expired, your 3 years was up 2 or 3 weeks before. But how were you, as the recipient of the gift voucher, to know that? 3 years is a long time to remember. So I would like to investigate this, and I'd certainly like to see a copy of the voucher or card or whatever he was given as a gift. Trish, if you could email it to me, and I will take it from there. But the short answer is yes, the validity date most definitely needs to be stated on the card. It can't be guesswork on the part of the recipient.
The good to knows out of this conversation, Wendy, in terms of vouchers, there's a couple of things that we have highlighted in terms of what people should definitely look for. In this case, with Trish, is when did you purchase the voucher? Did you actually hold on to the receipt? Because sometimes, you give the person the voucher, but you hold on to the receipt and the expiry date. So what are those good to knows in terms of a voucher?
If you're doing the buying, check that doesn't state it's not transferable. Check that it doesn't state that goods or services on promotion are not included. There's no exclusion for that in the Act. And check that they don't have some sneaky little clause that says if you redeem after year 1 or after year 2, you will pay significantly more for that service that's provided, be it a adrenaline junkie type adventure thing or a relaxing day at the spa, whatever the case may be. So check that's not there. Just about every bit of advice or every topic we discuss on this show, Zain, ends with please read the small print. And still people don't, but I persist anyway in the hope that maybe 1 or 2 are persuaded. I think that's the basic thing. The validity date is the thing to check first of all, and if there isn't one, to ensure that they put one on there that states that expiry date 3 years from the heads.
Go online and check the reviews of the company, so that you know this company's been around for so many years. Then
look for recent reviews.
Yeah. Look for other people's experiences with this particular company. That will obviously tell you whether or not you will enjoy the experience, or whether or not you should be purchasing a voucher, because we've seen companies that have been in existence for 30, 40 years go under these days.
Yeah. Well, the case of the spa, I mean, it had been in operation since 2016, I think it was. So it's nearly 10 years. So there was trust and all the rest. So these people didn't see it coming. The people who bought the vouchers right at the end there.
I have a voucher from a prominent photography shop in the Gardens, which my kids gave me for a birthday in 2023. So we don't know exactly which month in 2023. I thought I lost it, but I found it when we moved this year. As per the CPA, is that still valid?
No, definitely.
24, 25,
sometime
26?
in 2026 that expires. So
Mm.
definitely the whole of 2025, and up into the month it was purchased in 2023. Yeah, very much still valid. Go shopping.
Go shopping, yes. We got an email from Rosie asking, I misplaced a gift card from Sorbet, which is quite nice, and it expired in February already. And once again, we don't know whether it was 3 years or whether there was a limited 12 months.
No, they'll be 3 years.
They'll be 3 years.
Yeah.
Is there anything that one can do regarding this, or is just your own misfortune and you've lost out on the deal?
Well, you can plead for if it was a few days, I would say you might have a chance. But February, I would say no. You had the full 3 years, and I've done this myself. It's an awful feeling. I feel worse for the person that paid the money for my pedicure, and I did try several times to make a booking, but it was always high season. All the tourists were here, and I just couldn't do it, and I feel terrible. But I'm not going to go to the spa and say, well, it's your fault, and I could have made middle of winter bookings, and I just slipped my mind. So, unfortunately, and this is the thing. The companies that issue gift vouchers do it because it's good business for them, because there is a percentage, and I don't know what the average is, but I would say it's not too small. And for whatever reason, people lose them, people forget, people whatever, they just don't redeem them. They move, and they've got that money for nothing. So, it's a good idea to buy the voucher if it's, if it gets redeemed. If it isn't, it's just a waste of your money. But you've got no control over that as the buyer. You just got to hope that the person you gifted to redeems it.
Read the fine print, and in capital letters, read the fine print. Make absolutely sure. Wendy, where can people get hold of you?
Okay, so the best way for me is to go onto my website, wendyknowler.co.za, because on there, if you click on consumer complaint, you will be directed to a form, which I've tried very hard to populate in a way that prompts you to give me all the information that I would need to take up your case without having to send you an email back and ask for basic information, like what was the account number, when did this happen, whatever. So that's the best way. Otherwise, it's consumer@knowler, knowler.co.za.
Wendy Knowler, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. And we were chatting about vouchers. Remember, this conversation will be up on the website at primemediaplus.com. Any idea what we're chatting about next week, Wendy?
Oh, no, that's far too long away, Zain. I'll know by Monday.
In the busy lives we have. But there certainly will be a promo out, and there obviously will be a promo flighted as to what will be happening in next week. So every Wednesday between 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock, we chat to Wendy Knowler, who is our consumer journalist. And, of course, the contact details for Wendy will also be on our website. For those of you who bought vouchers and you've had a wonderful experience, I'm glad for that. For those of you who bought vouchers and you haven't had a good experience, go to Wendy's website, fill out the form, and Wendy will fight that case on behalf of you. Once again, I'm in the retail market very often, Wendy, and in the retail market also, wherever you are, you need to make absolutely sure when you can take something back. Go and familiarize yourself with certain parts of the Consumer Protection Act and make sure that you are able to take that back, or you are able to actually know your rights. When you're standing in front of a manager of a store, when you're standing in front of a business, you need to know what your rights are when you're holding that voucher.